Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Yes, I'm not sitting on my sofa, I'm not back at home. I am actually in Italy for a couple of days. The beauty of £30 flights from Stansted. Great stuff. I wasn't actually going to do a video, but then I think I was moaning at my wife so much about the Tottenham match last night that she said, you just need to get it out of your system. Just do a video or something. I'll go downstairs to the bar, which... Yeah, I'm hoping she's all right. If I'm going to leave her for 45 minutes or so to do that, I'm sure she'll be absolutely fine. Probably enjoying herself far more than she was having me moaning about the football match. So yeah, I thought I'd sit down, set up a very rudimentary system where the camera is, or my phone is essentially propped up. So if it suddenly falls during this, that could well happen. Could end up being an absolute disaster. And obviously you can see the bed. We've literally just arrived in this hotel in a place called Verbania. Which is very pretty, overlooking a lake, which you can't see anything because it's just gone dark quite recently. Spurs though, got to get it off my chest, got to talk about Tottenham just briefly. Probably will be shorter than other videos, otherwise I might get a knock on the hotel door anyway, being told to hurry it up. Do you know what, I think we have to start with the end. I think we do, because it's the most important bit to talk about, and it was just chaos. Where was I last night? Bologna, watching it on my phone, watching the BT Sport coverage, trying to make sense of everything that happened. I can tell you what, it's so weird compared to being there. I'm so used to kind of seeing everything that's going on all behind the scenes, seeing all the different little people, not little people, but different people kind of going mad about certain stuff. In a situation like that, I know Guesty was there covering the game for us. And no doubt you probably got to see everything spilling around the goal and the mad celebrations. I think Jed Spence was involved, Richarlison, Kulusevski all jumped in. It was chaos. And I bet it was one of those moments that during those brief moments where everyone thought it was going to be actually the winning goal, I bet it was a brilliant feeling. But then VAR rose its head and it happened. So kind of trying to work out, because I was pretty much like you guys and girls last night. I was like, I cannot understand why this goal has been ruled out. I can't understand it. There is no logic to it whatsoever, because in my mind I was always of the feeling that if you pass the ball backwards you can't be offside. So technically the rule isn't exactly that, from what I can understand speaking to people. It seems to be that the player in the situation must be behind the ball, regardless of whether the ball was played backwards. So obviously that's what VAR and this, I think this semi-automated offside technology apparently immediately picked up the fact that Harry Kane was a fraction, we're talking fractions ahead of Emerson, the ball as he played it. And I think the issue is we're so used to seeing players behind the ball and the player passing the ball when it's a backwards pass. It kind of all goes hand in hand, that rule. But when the ball is played back yet the player is actually in advance of it, it's a bit of a different thing. And look, I'm still not 100% sure. I guess by the letter of the law, it has to be applied. My only concern would be exactly where they drew that line to and from. Is it the centre of the ball? Is it the side of the ball? I'm not entirely sure how that works. Like I said, I've kind of been doing everything off my phone the last couple of days, so I haven't seen it on a big screen. I haven't seen exactly where it's gone to and from. But you know, again, we're dealing with these kind of points where we're talking about fractions of a millimetre or something. So in that sense, how accurate can you get with your frame rates on the exact time a ball was played? That's always been my issue with the offside technology, is that the frame rates have to be so exact to the exact almost nanosecond of a frame of a player being in a certain position, and that then you can use. And I just don't always know entirely. You know, the technology companies that are involved in all this may tell me, no, that's absolutely what we do, and it is the perfect kind of snapshot of a moment. But that was chaos. It was chaos, and do you know what? There was a certain irony to the fact that it actually wasn't that great a ball, because if you think about it, if you play it back in your head, Emerson has headed it across, but into a defender. So even the pass wasn't actually that good a pass, but it's probably irrelevant anyway because Harry Kane would have been in an offside position. I guess the best kind of thing really, I suppose, would have been Emerson, because Emerson, there were some people thought maybe Emerson was offside, but he came from deep. He was a long way onside when the ball was hit. It was a lovely ball in from Perisic. I guess it's just on Kane maybe just advancing that little bit too much. I don't know. And obviously some people have wondered, does it matter that it then hit a defender and then knocked on? But from what I understand, that's it's because that's a deflection rather than an actual pass from the opposition defender. It's all bundled up into the same phase of play, so it doesn't really make any difference whatsoever anyway. Yeah, honestly, utter chaos. And yeah, I was lying on the bed in the hotel room just trying to make sense of it all myself, and I kind of was just in a position with everyone else. Although, having spoken to some of the reporters at the game, I think it was equally chaotic there. They were trying to work out what happened because some of them had different views. I'd seen little things on my kind of screen and the replays from BT Sport that they hadn't seen their end. And I think this is probably the biggest problem with VAR in this form, is that it is chaotic. And it is, 4 minutes or more of trying to work out exactly what had happened. Did it it's a difficult one because you could argue, are we saying it killed the game because we're looking at it from a Spurs perspective, which of course, it's going to feel that way. Whereas the Sporting players and Ruben Amorim, of course, he'll be looking at it and thinking, fantastic, great work, lads, you've got the right decision. But just trying to be objective, looking at it maybe just as a journalist covering a game of football, which obviously I wasn't, but talking to the guys that were covering it, there definitely is a sense that it was just chaotic, and that's not really adding something to a match of football. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, it could end up being big stakes, and let's say Sporting don't go through, that's millions upon millions of pounds, and if they'd not gone through because of a call that was fractionally wrong, I guess it's doing its part. But is it football as we know it? I don't know. I've already said in numerous videos in the past, I hate the fact that players celebrate goals only to then find out that they weren't goals. And last night was one of the best examples of it, because you had a whole stadium erupting. You had everyone spilling off the bench to celebrate. It was one of those moments that kind of football is all about, and it ultimately meant completely nothing. And it's difficult because some people with no connection to Spurs will say, oh no, you're worried about celebrations for a goal that never was anyway. And I get that. But is it football? I don't know. I really don't think it was. But yeah, Conte also got a red card, obviously. He was trying to say afterwards that he was just on the pitch with everyone else, but he got singled out for some reason. And I think now it's not only a touchline ban, I think he's not allowed in the dressing room or the tunnel before or after the match as well. It's quite an all-encompassing one, the UEFA one, whereas I think with Premier League, I've got a feeling he would have just missed being in the in the dugout. I think that's the way it is. And do you know what? I don't think it helped at all. I was only watching it on, like I say, on my little phone screen. Was that after the game, all the Spurs players were going up to try and get some understanding of what happened, and so was Christian Stellini, Conte's assistant. And the referee kind of had this really strange grin on his face. I don't think he meant it to come across as it was. I think he was just trying to diffuse the situation and trying to kind of say, look, it's a game of football, lads, kind of thing, I think. But what it was doing was he kind of almost looked a bit maniacal the way he was doing it. It was almost like, hey, go on then, what are you going to do? What are you going to say? Doesn't matter, I'm smiling. And it was a bit like, I feel like that was only incensing some of the players even more. And I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I think I've said that a few times in this already. For the referee, what's he supposed to do? It's not his decision. The decision has been taken out of his hands by VAR. So I guess maybe there's a bit of a helpless feeling to the smile. It's a bit like, what do you want to do? What can I change? I can't change anything. It's obviously they gave it on the pitch, but then VAR decided otherwise, and that's nothing to do with him. There's nothing he can alter in the fate of that, I guess. But yeah, Conte could maybe face further action. We'll see what they make of his comments. Obviously, not happy at all, and and he came out and only answered one question from the media and hit it off. But what he got in his answer, I don't know whether the point was, let's just do the one answer so we don't get ourselves in trouble too much, but he still managed over the course of just one answer to pretty much question the integrity of VAR in its entirety. And yeah, I mean, here's the quotes if you haven't seen them. I'm going to try and read through them quickly. At the end, because all the people come into the pitch and then the referee decided to send me off only for this. I think there are moments that maybe you can be a bit intelligent to understand you have just disallowed a regular goal because the goal was regular. The ball is in front of Kane. And then the VAR, I repeat, you know I don't comment on referee's decision, but the VAR this season, I don't know why between the Premier League and the Champions League we are not so lucky. I don't know why until now. We are also the only team who repeated the penalty, and every penalty I go to see, if the keeper moves on the line, I see a lot of the time. I think he's talking about Lloris there, wasn't he? Lloris was penalised for moving off his line to save a penalty. And then we had to take it again, and then it went in. I want to see a repetition of penalties in the Premier League. I think we're not so lucky with VAR, but I think they create big damage. I would like to see if this type of decision you can take with a top team in an important game. Yeah, I would like to see if VAR is so brave to take this decision. I repeat, this unfair decision because the ball is in front of Kane. Sorry, but I'm really upset because sometimes you can accept this situation and sometimes I think it's not good because I don't see honesty in this type of situation. When I see this, I become really, really upset. For the game, we played first half with low intensity and Sporting deserved to stay 1-0 up, and at the end of the game after our second half, I think we deserved to get the 3 points. Now, for this decision, we have to wait to the last game against Marseille, and I repeat, this decision, creates big damage. I hope the club understands this, and then in the right situation, they also speak with the people they have to speak to, because otherwise it's only the manager to speak. I think the club has to be strong, but because I repeat, this situation creates big, big damage. Now, we don't know what happens next week. If we go out, then I want to see. It's big stuff. It is big stuff from Conte. It really, really is. So yes, questioning the integrity of VAR, questioning whether it would have happened to a big team. The only flip side to that I would say is that he is once again saying that Spurs aren't a top team and therefore can be messed about with. Whether Spurs fans want to hear that, I don't know. I think that's another thing. But yeah, I don't know. I get what he's trying to say. But I don't know whether it's going to end up causing him more issues with UEFA and whatever comes next from his comments. I mean, let's go to the match. You know, we've talked over that decision, and I'd love to kind of hear more. I've read some little experts' view, and all the experts' views do seem to be that it wasn't a goal. That, you know, going by the laws and the way it's done. Knowing Spurs, the way it works with everything Spurs do, they'll create a new law next week that will do something completely different. And it will mean that Tottenham wouldn't have been penalised after the event. It reminds me of, wasn't it the Musa Sissoko handball in the Champions League final? I think wouldn't have actually been a handball the following season because everything changed. The classic Tottenham way. So the first half was dreadful. Absolutely dreadful performance. It's kind of following a theme at the moment where Spurs come out the traps quite well, show a bit of intensity, and you think, all right, this is good. And then suddenly something happens, whatever it may be, but they lurch back into this deep line kind of display. And I can't believe that's a tactic because it makes no sense. I can't see Conte saying, all right, lads, for the first 5 minutes, go out there and run about a bit. Go and try and get the ball, harass them, press all up the pitch, look really impressive. But then about the 5 minute mark, if you can just go back and sit there and hope something happens and we maybe break and score a goal at some point. I can't see that that's the tactic. I just think the players seem to be naturally, whether it's a confidence thing, I don't know what it is, but they just seem to be falling back into this habit of just hanging back around their own final third. And it's obviously not working at all. It felt to me like Spurs were playing away from home. They didn't look like the home team whatsoever. I actually tweeted something out. Something like, what did I say? Something like Spurs will hopefully play at home in the second half. And I think most people got what I meant, but a couple of people took it completely wrongly on Twitter. They thought I was saying about like the atmosphere and the fans were meaning it wasn't at home. That wasn't what I meant at all. I meant the way the players were playing was that they were playing an away game. It was really, really odd. And because I think there were boos at half time. So I think maybe people drew a correlation. Perhaps timing wise, it maybe that was what led them to do that. You've heard my views on fans booing, whatever. They absolutely have every right to do what they want to do. They pay their money. They go into that stadium. They have the right to boo, regardless of whether someone like me thinks it's not helpful or not. Because look, I get into matches for free. That is part of my job. So I'm in absolutely no place to say someone should boo or should not boo. Do I think it's helpful? Of course, I don't think it is, but I also understand completely the pent-up frustration of watching stuff like that being served up. I completely understand it because that first half was so pedestrian. It didn't even look like they were going to break Sporting down for long periods, which was probably the most worrying thing. And it had to be Marcus Edwards. It absolutely had to be Marcus Edwards scoring that goal. If I could have bet on one player to score the goal at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it was him. It was just... The build-up was poor from Spurs. I think it was Højbjerg tried to hack him down and got nowhere near. He used quite a bit of strength, Marcus Edwards. Dyer was out of position for it. Romero stood off him. As for the finish, I think it was a really nice finish. I don't know, it was one of the commentators said he scuffed it. I don't think he did. I think he just kind of placed it quite well. Lloris maybe could have sorted his feet out a bit better because of the distance it came from, but I do think it was a very accurate shot inside the corner. Could he have done slightly better? Yes. Was he the culprit, the main culprit in this? No, I don't think so. I think there was a lot of yardage for Marcus Edwards to get through before that even became a thing that Lloris had to do anything with it. So yeah, I'm not blaming Lloris for that one. Lloris had a funny game. He went for one of those crazy runs where he just goes off like AWOL when you're wondering, where are you going? And he kind of ended up on the side of the pitch missing a sliding tackle when it was not very good at all. But then he also did a few really good saves, I felt, towards the end of the game. I did feel he kind of kept Spurs, it could be the difference. If Spurs, I don't know, let's say get a point in Marseille, then, a lot of those saves that Lloris was making towards the end will have played a major part in that. So yeah, Lloris was a funny game. I'm trying to think who else. He had a 1v1 as well, didn't he? With his chest when the players ran through, he kind of got in the way of. I thought that was quite good as well. But yeah, that first half was just dreadful. It was really, really poor, and there's definitely a confidence issue at the moment within that team. And it's such a shame because I think the moment, had they been given that goal at the end, Harry Kane had scored, I think that could have been a big moment and one of those confidence changes with everything. And now, they're going into Bournemouth game really kind of misfiring, and then obviously a huge match now at Marseille, which was going to almost be a dead rubber, but now isn't at all. Look, if we're going to say positives, I thought they were much better in the second half. I thought they were far less passive. They really did go for it. I felt that, they created quite a lot. Back to negatives. I was really disappointed with Lucas. Look, I know he's going to be rusty. That's probably understandable. But I just felt it was the worst side of Lucas we see, is in the head down and run side of Lucas, and he can be so much better than that. And I just didn't feel he did anything really in the game. He started off reasonably well, looked like he was going to be an outlet for the ball, and just as it went on, he wasn't. It wasn't great at all. He really didn't do enough with the ball for me when he had it, and I think the main difference really was felt when Bryan Gil came on, because when Bryan Gil came on, it was like chalk and cheese, night and day. It really was. Suddenly, down the right-hand side, things were really happening. I thought it was a massive night for Bryan Gil, in the Champions League, no less, as well. And I really hope it's opened up Antonio Conte's eyes to him a little bit and what he can do for him, because he was direct with his running. Everything had a purpose to it. It wasn't kind of just running into corners with no real end to it. He was always looking up when he had the ball rather than head down. He was curled in some lovely cross. I think almost his first touch was a cross that all someone had to do was just get their head on, and it was curled. It was such a dangerous cross. His dribbling was really good, but on top of that, the thing that I think Conte maybe worries about with him, I thought was one of his strengths as well. He battled away. He was constantly kind of tracking back, trying to go. There was a few times he intercepted the ball really well. And he was just a constant danger, and he helped pin Sporting back down that side of the pitch. And for me, personally, what do I know? I'm not a pro-licensed coach or one of the best in the world at all, like Antonio Conte. I feel he kind of has to be a contender for that Kulusevski role at the weekend. If nobody is fit enough to come back into that, I can't see why bringing Bryan Gil in on the right-hand side of a front three is anything negative, because with no offence to Lucas Moura, he didn't offer enough. I can't see how he's going to be more of a plus than Bryan Gil in that game. I think Bryan Gil's deserved it. I just don't like it, I think, in football when players will do something really good. Like he came on and was similarly bright against Frankfurt, wasn't he? Nothing came of it. Nothing at all. And now finally comes on and gets 20 minutes. Again, does plenty with his time, plenty of positives. I'd like to see a reward for them. It's a bit like the carrot and the stick approach, isn't it? There's got to be a carrot, otherwise the player's just thinking, I'm just getting whacked with a stick the whole time, kind of thing. It's just like there is no reward to this. And for me, I would start him. I would. I know there's people out there saying, oh, but maybe he's just an impact sub and all that, but you don't know unless you try. The last glance we saw at him kind of as a starter was pretty much when he just kind of coming into English football. He's now had a little bit more experience of it. And I just don't see the downside to it. Look, if it's not working by half time, by all means, go back to the relative safety of having Lucas on, a player who knows what he's doing, I guess, or has experience of the Premier League. I just hope Conte isn't stubborn about it. I hope he does feel that fair enough, you've merited a little run out, because you might find that he's got that creativity Spurs lack without Kulusevski in there. It may work. It may work. I thought Eric Dyer, his biggest kind of problems this time came at the other end of the pitch, up front, because three headers, wasn't it? 3 headers that he sent either off target or wide. A couple of biggies in there that really, you'd think maybe if that had fallen to Kane, probably would have been headed home. He had a nice volley, to be fair, turn and volley after getting whacked. He got up and volleyed it, and the keeper saved well. So I thought Dyer, look, he wasn't alone in having shots saved or wasting good chances. Bentancur obviously ended up scoring the goal, had a good one. Sonny had one saved. Matt Doherty maybe should have done better with a low left-footed drive as well. The keeper did make a lot of saves. This is the thing. Second half, Spurs created chances. It was almost like, I guess, they had the handbrake taken off because they had to go for it. And we saw a little bit more of the football we want to see. But then is that a sustainable kind of football across the whole game? Because they were pretty open. Sporting were kind of pulling them apart at the end. And like I say, without Lloris, could have maybe done that. Wing backs, like I say, had mixed games. Matt Doherty made some good runs, and like I say, had that big chance as well, but some poor decisions and maybe not some good moments either on the ball. Even Perisic, again, I wouldn't say it was magnificent, but then what I would say is that he also had some really dangerous moments. Was it his... trying to think now. It's his ball for Bentancur's goal, which was a really good goal, got up above the keeper. I have no idea why Sporting thought that could even be any kind of an obstruction. He just jumped, and the keeper did like a weird half jump. Good goal from Bentancur. He started, like I said this before, him and Højbjerg starting to improve their attacking stats purely out of necessity. They've had to. But yeah, Perisic put in the ball for that. Perisic also put in the ball for Emerson to head back across, kind of, for Kane. And I felt it was another very good Perisic ball as well. But yeah, it was almost like 3 moments for Perisic, but I would say it's quite pedestrian, a lot of the other stuff he did. Still haven't seen him absolutely light up yet, Perisic. I thought Bentancur was very good again. That man is giving everything for the Spurs cause at the moment. He really is. I felt that he... is literally just worry. Touch wood, there's some wood over there. No, it's under glass. Oh no, I didn't touch any wood. No, so chairs made of wood, touch that. That looks weird when I'm saying touch wood and putting my hand down beneath the level of the camera, but you know what I mean. Yeah. My worry is that Bentancur is exerting himself so much at the moment that if anyone is going to pick up an injury, it is going to be him right now. And I think he's kind of become quite a crucial cog in the Spurs machine. He really has. Very much deserved his goal. Like I said, another big chance that he really probably should have done better with. But this was a good one from him. Obviously, Højbjerg and Romero were there and available. Romero, I'm still not seeing him back to his best yet. Højbjerg was fine, maybe slightly limited perhaps because he did have a bit of fatigue, to be fair to him. I didn't talk about Emerson. Emerson Royale came off the bench. As I say, you've probably seen the clip now of the weird no-look pass he does to Bryan Gil, who's in a really good position. I don't know why he didn't decide to look at the ball. I think he was trying to be clever playing a no-look ball, but nobody needed to worry. He didn't need to worry about doing a no-look pass. And all he actually did was he didn't look at the ball and he hit it wrong and it went off. But yeah, look, I don't think Matt Doherty did a fantastic job. That Emerson Royale came on and was terrible compared to him. There's still a part of me that would have liked to have seen what Jed Spence would have done late on, but then that history could have been written in a different way. Emerson could have headed that ball. Kane could have been slightly behind play rather than whatever it is, a fingernail's width in front. But I would have liked to see what Jed Spence could do. Especially him at the back post with his height, with Perisic putting in balls as well. I don't know. I'm not the manager. On the whole, I thought his substitutions were quite attacking, really, on the whole, apart from Clement Longley coming on, which again I think is just to add maybe some better passing, perhaps, I don't know. But certainly, Bryan Gil came on straight off. Ryan Sessegnon was about to come on with him, and for some reason didn't end up coming on. I'm not entirely sure what happened there. Like I said, I wasn't there, otherwise I probably would have been able to know a bit more about it. But yeah, in the end it was just Bryan Gil who came on with 20 minutes to go and did very well. And then, Longley and Emerson Royale was the other one as well. I think they all did add elements to the game. I do think that. But for me, maybe just seeing Jed Spence come on would have been that something a little extra. I don't know. And look, I know what Conte was saying. He is right. You've got Kulusevski and you've got Richarlison, and suddenly everything's looking a bit better in terms of the way you can change a game. I do understand that, and I think that's true. Look, at the end of the day, the point was something, because it does mean that Spurs now just is doing some big heavy lifting right now, but they just have to go to Marseille and just a point will do it. That's easier said than done, because they're going to a Marseille team that need to do everything. They have to, get the win. I think they need the win, don't they? I don't think a draw is any good to them at all. Well, it definitely isn't. So they need to win. So they're going to be absolutely going for it, which I guess in one respect might play into Spurs' hands slightly, because they'll have to be open. Marseille, they won't be able to sit back. That may play into Spurs' way of playing. It's just a confidence thing with Spurs at the moment. It's being able to go to a place like that and not crumble underneath the noise, I guess. I think Marseille have got a partial stadium ban closure, which means, I could be plucking this out of the air, I'm trying to remember back now, maybe around 13,000 fans they can't have in or something, but I think it's a pretty big stadium, so I think there'll still be a fair bit of noise in there. Again, I'm kind of in a holiday mode, so I haven't entirely looked up exactly what that is, so apologies, don't take that for gospel whatsoever. Please do look into it and Google Marseille Stadium, Tottenham match or whatever. There's definitely a section of fans they're not allowed to have in. There's certainly a certain number because of a previous incident at UEFA. I think it was 2 home games, I feel like it is. They had to not be allowed a certain amount in. So it won't be quite the venue it was, but it's still going to be a very big occasion and everything comes down to that game. And like I said before, it'd been lovely. If it'd been a bit more of a dead rubber game, Conte could have made a load of changes. Whereas now, He's kind of got to put out his strongest bods, as it were, but yet while also trying to have some fresh. Because Tuesday, it's so mad, isn't it? Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday. It's such a quick turnaround on every game. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. First off, though, Bournemouth away. Bournemouth, no pushovers. They aren't a pushover in the league this season. I think they've come up, and sad to say it because I do like Scott Parker, but kind of in the aftermath, they seem to have found a little bit of form in certain things they're doing. And it's not going to be as easy as maybe it looks like it should be on paper. Like I say, I'd love to see Bryan Gil start. Get Sonny, Kane and Bryan Gil up there. If obviously, I think even if Kulusevski and Richarlison were able to play any part, I don't know. I haven't been involved in press conferences and training for the last few days. Not that I was ever involved in training, but watching on Tuesday, I got to watch a bit of it. So I don't really know how far along they are. I think Guesty said that Kulusevski and Richarlison, he saw them in the gym working, but that doesn't really mean much in terms of outfield stuff. But either way, whenever they are able to come back, they're not going to probably start a game, are they? They're probably going to be coming off the bench. I just hope personally that Conte doesn't feel that he has to keep pushing Lucas Moura and feeling, oh, Lucas is sharper and fitter now, and give Bryan Gil a bit of a reward. Give him a little chance out there. I do wonder whether he's going to have to change one of that midfield. I just don't know if you can keep ploughing along with Højbjerg and Bentancur together. Fitness-wise, do you have to rest Bentancur? Is there a game where he maybe does have to come out and either skip or Bissouma comes in? Or does he try to play it safe in terms of the forwards and go for a 3-5-2, which then negates the whole Bryan Gil stuff we're talking about? I'm intrigued to see, again from afar. I'm not back for the Bournemouth game. Where am I in? I'm in Genoa, doing a little kind of a mini tour. Like I say, honestly, 30 quid Ryanair return tickets. It's like just getting a cheap train somewhere. It's fantastic. And then once you're out here, you can get really cheap trains everywhere because the Italian train system is awesome. So literally went to Milan, popped to Bologna for a couple of days, now Verbania for a couple of days around the lake, then Genoa for a couple of days and then back. It's only like 5-6 days, but it's so cheap. It's fantastic. But there you go. Enough about cheap holidays from Stansted Airport. So yeah, I'll be able to, I'll try and watch Bournemouth somehow, if I can, but I will be back. I've got a bit of a nightmare return. I'm flying back in, then within about 4 hours, that like middle of the night, have to then kind of get straight back up and get on a coach to fly to Marseille, for the Spurs press conference and all that as well. Via a connecting flight. Look, I'm not asking for sympathy. Don't worry. I'm not going, oh, what a tough life. It's not. Of course, it's not. But if you do see me, anyone that sees me in Marseille, anyone that's travelling out there, if you see me on Monday, I'm going to be a zombie because I think sleep is going to be about 1 or 2 hours that night. It's going to be an interesting one. Or you may see me or hear me snoring on the flight, connecting flight via Paris to Marseille. Yeah. It's not going to be a pretty sight. Whatever you see or hear, it's going to be, not good. So yeah, that's Spurs. Like I said, it's going to be a shorter one. The only thing I would say also, I've seen there's a lot of links to Sonny in the last couple of days, here, there, and everywhere. I told you, whenever it was, a long time ago, that Liverpool had been considering Sonny if Spurs hadn't got into the Champions League under Conte at the end of last season. Liverpool were considering maybe last summer trying to have a go for Sonny. I don't think that would have meant anything. I don't think Spurs would have let him go anyway. And from everything I'm being told by everyone within the club, they're just kind of laughing whenever there's a link to Sonny being away, because I just keep getting told by everyone that he is very happy. Only signed a new contract, was it last summer with Spurs? Not this one just gone, but the one before. And the club have absolutely zero intention of selling Sonny anywhere. Look, I feel that Sonny's going to come big soon. I feel like he's just going through a little bit of a sticky patch at the moment. Not his decision making maybe impacted by his confidence a little bit. But I feel like he's just going to suddenly, Kane is kind of ticking over the goals, even if he's not hitting the massive heights of performances. And I just feel with Sonny, we're just going to suddenly see him burst to life. Whether that means a change in formation slightly. Maybe it means a little tweak to the tactics to get the best out of him. I know I've spoken about this before. Some people saying the Perisic-Sonny partnership isn't quite working yet. But I also feel like even with Sessegnon in the last game or two, it hasn't quite worked either. I think, it'll come back. Sonny, always say this. The moment you doubt him is the moment he makes you look stupid because he'll roar back to life. So like I say, anyone linked with a move for Sonny, not a chance. Look, even if you're getting away from the incredibly talented player that Sonny is, do you think Spurs would seriously give up the incredible marketing of that man as well, as in his global appeal? It's on a... I'm reticent to use the word Messi and people like that because with any player in the world. But what I would say is when you've got a player that is such a global icon, I don't know if you can hear someone's beeping their horn out in the background on the streets of Albania. But when you've got someone like Sonny, who's so incredibly popular out in the world, and of course in South Korea as well, as a club, that's just another added benefit of saying no to any bid, because any huge bid that would come in would not replicate the incredible revenue that Spurs will, I guess, make from someone like Sonny. I know it sounds so cynical on a marketing point of view, but I don't think you can forget the fact that Sonny is a terrific footballer as well. So I'm not just saying they're like milking him or something like a cow, because he is obviously an incredible player for them as well. And and Sonny will be earning very well from Tottenham as well with his last contract that he signed last year. But obviously when you've got a player that is worth that much in terms of merchandising, shirts sold, marketing, going over to do those like the incredible tour we got to go on in the summer, and just seeing that the money just rolled in from that tour for Spurs. So anyone like a Liverpool, like a huge team, I can't see how they can come in and offer any number, even a silly number, doesn't replicate what Spurs have probably made from Sonny over the years and will continue to do so the remainder of his contract, if not longer if he signs a new one. So it's one of those where it makes no sense just in the normal world because he's an amazing player and you wouldn't want to sell him. But also, when you look at it from just a hard, cold financial point of view, it makes zero sense whatsoever as well. And like I say, from everything that's been said, it sounds like Sonny's very happy anyway. So, look, Conte, if he can get everything together, get them back on the kind of the right direction, Spurs are going to do good things. Like I say, I still believe, despite seeing, performances that aren't the full ticket at the moment, I still believe Spurs will be in the top four, if not third, by the time the World Cup breaks. Then they will make January signings. They will. I think I saw the transcript from Conte's pre-match presser where he essentially said the club know they have to make signings. It's kind of developing. You can now see he's just putting that pressure on them to say that, no, you have to make signings. They know they have to. And he's like saying, and good players as well. So he's like saying, don't sign me any players from, I don't know why he talks like that, it's obviously Italian, but essentially don't sign me any players from the Championship and all that sort of stuff, which is no slight on Jed Spence, because I still believe in him, but clearly that's what Conte is saying. I want decent level signings, got the experience, know what to do straight away. But that's logical, because if Spurs are in third or fourth going into the final months of the season after the World Cup, it's logical to look at that situation and say, okay, now we consolidate that and we build on top of that foundation as well. Because otherwise, you're doing a Louis Saha and Ryan Nelson January window. That's what you're doing. And if Antonio Conte has a January window like that, expect a kind of a nuclear mushroom cloud over N17, because that's not going to go down well. Spurs are going to have to do stuff. They're going to have to, the planning for that has to be happening now. It has to be. Because obviously they're going to have a big old chat about this. I'm sure they talk most days about what's going to happen next. But you'd imagine there'll be this meeting, a proper meeting, when it's during the World Cup time, when there's a perfect gap for it, after Conte's had a bit of a rest. But the planning has to be happening now, maybe probably before now as well, just so they're ready to roll when the January window opens, because the quicker they can move for people, the quicker they can get cracking. This is why I'm still not in the doom and gloom club. I know there's some people out there that are starting to kind of get a bit fed up with it, but I can only still point to the fact that they are third and top of the Champions League group. Somehow, but they are. which just means they just need to get their act together, really. Because look, the Tottenham at the end of last season were blowing teams away in quite a few of the matches, scoring a lot of goals. We know they can do it. Just for some reason, a lot of the changes, I guess, that have been made, along with some unfortunate injuries, it's not gelling and clicking quite right at the moment. But it will. It will. I do believe that. I would like to see some high-quality recruits in January. I do think that. And I know it's not the easiest window to buy players in, but I think there's going to be a lot of movement in this window. And I think that will help it become an easier window to operate in, because the difficulties of a normal January window are that so few players move. Ultimately, clubs can just say, well, if you want him, you have to spend ridiculous money that we know you're not going to spend. Whereas if it's a window where there's a lot moving anyway, then those clubs may become a little bit desperate themselves, or they may see someone else they want and they have to get funds for that. So just the whole wheel moves a little bit quicker, and it becomes slightly more akin to the summer window, because I think this January window is going to be so different because of the World Cup. But there you go. Right, I'm going to have to head off now, because like I say, I am supposed to be on holiday. I haven't had a knock on the door yet. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I'm going to pop down to the bar now. Hopefully she's okay. I'm sure she is. She took a book. And we'll probably be having a nice glass of wine while reading a book. Don't worry, our evenings on holiday are not just her reading at a bar with a glass of wine. That is entirely my fault for doing this. So I'm going to head off. Like I say, sorry it's not a video packed full of insight and anything else that maybe I could normally bring when I'm there. This is more maybe me talking things and getting them off my chest than anything video. So you're probably helping me more than I am. Or you can probably hear police in the background. I don't know if you can hear that or not. There's some big bug just trying to get in. So sorry, it's not probably the most insightful video you've ever had me do, but just needed to do it. Sorry. And you're probably saying, just go back to your holiday, you absolute mug, which I am about to do. Probably going to be very little opportunity to do a post-Bournemouth one, purely because of the facts of flights and coming back and then heading straight to Marseille. But yeah, certainly I'll do a roundup one of both Marseille and Bournemouth when I return from France. So there you go. Right, I am going to head off now and see where my wife is. I keep looking over there as if she's suddenly going to burst in the door, but she's not. So yeah, as always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves. I shall catch you later. Goodbye.